Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Happy Wednesday. Here it is, Hump Day. We're just zipping right along, coming up here for the last weekend of April.
I can't even believe it.
Yeah, it is. Wonder if there's going to be
better.
more excitement down at Tybee.
Oh, goodness.
Are we going to have Orange Crush the second?
I've heard that it's coming, but I do know that the Tybee City Council meeting is tomorrow evening, so that should be really fun for them.
Yeah. Because they're trying to put as much lipstick on this pig as they possibly can, because it was a disaster last weekend. No matter what they try to tell you about how nobody was hurt or anything like that, that is hogwash. And the people of Tybee are really ticked off.
Well, I think that's the thing. A lot of people are asking for the mayor to resign over this incident. And, this isn't the first time that she's gotten into hot water with some of her comments and some of the things that she wanted to do with Tybee. Interesting enough, she did not want to open the beaches on Tybee during COVID, but yet she couldn't figure out how to navigate Orange Crush. So very interesting, polar opposites almost in her opinion. So
even Police Chief Jeff Hadley, one of my favorite people, the chief of the Chatham County Police, said they were overwhelmed by what they said. They were really stunned at how big the crowd was. Most restaurants either couldn't open or they had to close early. They ran out of food. So they lost money for the most part because either they couldn't get people to come to work because they couldn't get there, or they just they were just so overwhelmed that they couldn't do their jobs.
Well, that's the thing. If you reach the islands and it still takes you 4 hours to get home, I mean, come on. They should have been more prepared and and the other thing is I'm just confused that there was no permitting required or, I mean, I understand it was a public event, but there should be some requirement for, especially for a place like Tybee, that it's pretty small. It's not like it can just take on all the people it can.
At some point, they're going to have to put up maybe if it's true that there is going to be something this weekend, they need to start putting up roadblocks outside the city. I mean, we're talking about not at Fort Pulaski or something like that, but we're talking about on Whitmarsh Island or whatever, and the access roads, and start searching every car. And they can call them racist or whatever you want to do, but this has to stop.
Well, I would say they need to start it, almost before the first bridge, and control kind of what goes into the island as well, because it impacted Whitmarsh, Wilmington, to Leahy. I mean, everyone was impacted if you lived on any of the islands.
Exactly.
So it doesn't just impact Tybee, and I think that's the bigger thing too, is that although Tybee was fine with this event, no one on the other islands thought that their life would be impacted that much by it, especially when, they have big events on Tybee all the time. 4th of July is big, and they expect traffic, but they don't expect it to be 4 hours to get home once you are on the island.
Yeah, they do a St. Patrick's Day parade the Saturday before St. Patrick's Day. They do the Beach Bum Parade to open the summer season. That's coming up here in just a couple of weeks. And so, and they don't have any trouble like this.
No, and that's the thing. They know it's a tourist area. They expect things, but this was just so out of the norm for everything that people expect. So I don't blame people for being upset. And
people's property damaged, and there was a lot of property damage. There was a lot of damage. And what about where are the environmentalists on these? Because the precious marshes and sand dunes were trampled.
Well, and all the trash that was going to go into the ocean at high tide.
Yeah. So
I think that there's a lot of things that people are not talking about because they, like you said, they want to put lipstick on this pig, and it is just not looking good.
No. So Tybee City Council, you have your work cut out for you tomorrow night, and I bet you're going to have a lot of people that want to talk to you.
Yeah, we wish you luck with that, and hopefully you guys can get control of whatever's about to happen this weekend too.
Yeah. Meanwhile, there's something going on in Bryan County that's interesting.
Yes, Bryan County, a substitute teacher was actually fired from the district because she raised some questions about some of the books that they were reading to children due to homosexuality and some of the content of the book that maybe was a little bit too much for the younger children. There are a lot of these pornographic books in our school. So she questioned it, and they fired her. And she just won her case. So she started suing them, I believe, in 2021. And she won her case, $181,000 in court case fees, as well as her damages. But she was reinstated, and she did get an apology from the superintendent, which I thought was really good.
Bless her heart.
Yes. Well, but here's the thing, Bill. Like, these are things that I think we need to talk about because it is a big win.
Yeah.
We're pushing back against things, but it's taking a long time to get these wins and these victories. So it's, nice to celebrate these, but we still have to keep going. There's still a lot we need to focus on. And,
yeah, because the left is relentless. And
they got nothing else to do, apparently.
And when I was doing my radio show, I had Lisa Freeman on several times from Bryan County. She was a teacher there for 30 years. She's a Gold Star mom. Her son was killed in action in Afghanistan. And she has been one of the pillars of the community, as well as one of the stars of that community for a long time, even before Matthew's death. And suddenly she went from the penthouse to the outhouse because she started complaining about these books in Bryan County. She brought some into me at the radio station. I was embarrassed to even stand there reading it, looking with her in the room. And then I would have never read them directly on the air, like that 11-year-old kid did up in Maine.
Yeah.
And when he was talking about when he went to the library, went up there and saw those books and started reading them to the school board and to the people there. Kudos to him. But those books don't belong here. And this is interesting, Brittany, because yesterday I went to our Kiwanis, downtown Savannah Kiwanis meeting, and one of our members is one of these traveling guys who goes around. He just came back from Minnesota. He'd gone up there to do some business, and I told him before he went, I said, I hope he took his bulletproof vest with him and was looking behind every corner. He said what was interesting. He said he happened to be watching television, and the governor of Minnesota was giving the State of the State address.
Oh, goodness.
And he said, and he just caught this one little segment where he said, in Minnesota or in Florida, they are banning books. He said, in Minnesota, we're banning hunger. And he said, I thought that was interesting. And I said, yeah, well, he's right, because they're dropping like flies in Florida. They got no food down there. So everybody's dying in Florida. That's why 400,000 people a year are moving down there.
Probably from her state.
They're banning book, and this is what the left does. By trying to hoist us on our own petard, where we said, when we talked about the book banning and the book burnings that the Nazis were doing back in the 30s and the 1930s and 1940s, and they say, they're doing the same thing. They're banning books, and we're not banning books. We just said those books do not belong. First of all, I don't think they belong anywhere. They don't belong to even be published. Anybody who even thinks up and writes this stuff, I think Satan's got a really nice hot spot for you. But nevertheless, the fact that they do exist, they certainly don't belong in elementary school. They don't belong in middle school. They don't belong in high school. Frankly, as far as I'm concerned, they don't belong in college. But if you want to buy one, if you want one on the street, if they want to sell one, and Porn Books Are Us or wherever it is, a Porn a Million, then you can go ahead and get one there. But they don't belong in public schools. They don't belong in private schools. They don't belong in homeschooling.
Well, and I think the misconception is that we're trying to ban books that are historical in nature, and I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the stuff that I've heard that I'm very confused about, because these are pornographic books that are being given to children. That's what we're trying to get rid of. Nothing else. We don't care about the history books and things like that.
That's something you get arrested for.
Yeah. If I was to give it to a kid, guess what? I would be arrested. It's porn.
Yeah.
So, there's a group here in Savannah called Just, and it's a group of churches that are trying to make a difference in the community, which I 100% appreciate. I did go to their event on Monday night and was very disappointed, I would say.
Okay.
I got nothing out of the meeting, but they had 400 to 500 people there. It was such a great opportunity to educate people on what's going on in education and with the affordable housing, and it just fell really flat. And I don't know, Bill. It was interesting. You had these pastors that are putting this together, which I think is good. And I'm sure a lot of the people that were from their congregations, there still wasn't a lot of young people, still a lot of older people that probably don't have children in their homes, but probably have grandchildren. And, some of the things that they want, I think, are great. Like, phonetics, putting phonetics back in school. I mean, that's how I learned how to read. I don't know how else you learn how to read without phonetics, but I guess.
Yeah, they took phonics. In fact, it started a cottage industry of phonics programs that you could order. So you had to pay for it.
Yeah.
Since you weren't, even though you were paying for public schools, you weren't paying for that anymore. But yeah, I can remember. The people I know that have taken Latin. My mother could spell anything.
That's amazing.
Because Latin was a required course, and then they started. The progressives in education, aka communists, came along and said, it's a dead language. People don't use it anymore. We don't need to be teaching it to our kids. And they dropped it the year before I was to take it. They dropped it from the curriculum, and my mother was furious. She said, "How stupid is that?" And my wife's ex-husband, former husband, also took Latin. She said Bob said he could spell anything because he had taken Latin.
Well, and that's the thing. Why would we want to teach our kids less, not more?
Exactly.
And I don't really understand where they're going. I mean, I do understand.
They're teaching more. Yeah, they're just teaching crap.
Yeah, they're focused on
worthless information. The 1619 project. So
well,
you
they're
got
teaching
some black
activism.
Woman, yeah. So you have some black woman that works at the New York Times, and she comes up with some stupid curriculum. Suddenly, it's part of the curriculum in our education system. How? Why? There's another guy that's written the 1620 project that tells the truth about all this stuff, and that's not, I don't see that required anywhere. I don't see that in anybody's curriculum. And I look at all these books. I remember when I was going to college, the first time I had seen a list of books that were not required reading, but these are suggested books that you ought to be reading. And one of them was Catcher in the Rye. That always seems that seems to be on all the lists. I got about a quarter of the way through this. I said, "This is a piece of crap. This is pornographic junk." And so I put that one aside. But I never saw the Caine Mutiny on there, which is my favorite book of all time. Pulitzer Prize winner from 1953 or 4, I believe, by Herman Wouk. It's about World War II, and the setting is in World War II. And it is a fantastic book. It has great characters, great character development. If you want to learn how to write a book, this is the template that you ought to use on developing characters and some of the scenes in there. There are very few times when I'm reading a book or that I actually go into hysterics over a scene. There's about 10 scenes in the Caine Mutiny where I am watering the plants. I'm laughing so hard. Then I found out that Herman Wouk also was a comedy writer before the war of a very popular comedy radio program, Fred Allen. And so I see where the comedy aspect comes in, because he's got there's some scenes in the Caine Mutiny that are just hysterically funny.
Yeah, there's plenty of great books out there for kids to read. That we really don't need these put in the schools. So,
no, we don't.
I know you guys are wondering how we feel about the Tucker let go this week.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it, but we will coming back from break.
Yes, sirree. Get real.
I am Bob Williams, current president of the Savannah Scottish Games. This is our 44th Savannah Scottish Games. We've been at Bethesda Academy for the last 15 or so years. Simultaneously, we have the Border Collie demonstrations herding sheep. We have children's activities. We have the Celtic dancers, the Highland dancers. We have the athletic field right in front of us here. And behind me, we have the Celtic music entertainment tent. So we have over 50 clans represented here at today's games. This is a time for Scots to get together, share their cultural heritage. We have a genealogy tent so they can find out the history of their family name and how it connects to Scotland, along with a lot of the Scottish history. We have reenactors on site that demonstrate some of the activities that were taking place during the 18th and 19th centuries as this country was getting settled, and this role that Scots played during that.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
At Get Real America, we are focused on Savannah, but we'd like to hear from other communities as well. We have a lot in common. Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Happy Wednesday. Glad to have you aboard, and sorry to see what happened at Fox, because I think the Spanish or the Mexicans have a word for expression for it. Muy estupado. Very stupid.
I mean, I believe. How much has Fox lost? I mean,
their stock dropped $1 billion.
Yeah, and I believe that was pretty quickly. I don't think that
like
took a lot of time.
Like a safe and free fall.
Yeah, and that doesn't include all of the subscriptions that were canceled from Fox Nation, because Tucker Carlson is probably one of their better investigative reporters and has done an amazing job with some of his stories on there.
Absolutely brilliant.
So I was looking forward to watching the show he did on bugs, people eating bugs, but I probably will not be, because I'm not going to pay for Fox Nation.
I'm just gonna say where has that stuff gone? Because I'd like to. There were several of those specials that I love to watch his Tucker Carlson Today interviews, the in-depth interviews he does with guests.
Yep.
That's really, really good.
Yes, and there's a lot of speculation as to what's happening, but I think it's quite interesting. On Sunday, one of our favorites, AOC, was on with Jen Psaki, her new show. And I think we have a clip of that here.
Yeah.
Federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't. And when you look at what Tucker Carlson and some of these other folks on Fox do, it is very, very clearly incitement of violence. Very clearly incitement of violence. And that is the line that I think we have to be willing to contend with.
Interesting that happened on Sunday. And on Monday...
Horse manure.
Well, and on Monday, we get the news that not only is Tucker Carlson leaving Fox, but within the same hour, we hear Don Lemon. He's out at CNN, and he's shocked.
Yeah.
He's shocked.
Yeah, the dumbest man. Well, that again proves he's the dumbest man on television. He could be one of the girls on The View.
Well, I think what got Don Lemon in trouble was that his argument with Vivek Ramaswamy, where he said, you know, you don't know what it's like to be a black man. I don't know whatever you are. I mean, that's what he said to him. I'm like, and he also pulled his earpiece because I think the producers were telling him, you need to stop. And he pulled his earpiece and he's like, I can't finish my thought with you guys talking to me. And so I think that probably has something to do with why Don Lemon was let go. But
they should have let him. They should have never hired him in the first place. But the fact that he lasted 17 years at the Communist News Network only proves what their agenda really is. And here's this woman exercising her First Amendment rights, saying that Fox News shouldn't. And if you want to see somebody who incites violence, how about looking in the mirror and look at the Democrat Party?
Well, not only that, so the other thing I find interesting is Don Lemon was only making about $3 to $4 million a year.
Yeah, only.
Well, Tucker Carlson was making 30.
Yeah.
So,
and deservedly so.
Yes, the ratings at Fox for him were unbelievable.
Through the roof.
So the fact that Fox is letting him go, there's a lot of speculation on why. But you also know that this seems very coordinated, Bill. Also, I believe there was the CEO of, was it MSNBC, that was also let go this week, who had a $21 million salary as well for having an inappropriate relationship with someone in the network. So, I mean, a lot going on in media right now. BuzzFeed, which is kind of younger, started in 2013, they're going under. So, I mean, a lot of stuff happening in media this week that is quite interesting.
Yeah, of course, and all of the Babylon Bee that loves to poke fun at these things. Yeah, it said that Tucker Carlson's going to be one of the new members of The View. I said, well, that would elevate the IQ considerably on that show.
Shrilling, though.
I would love to see him just 1 hour on The View.
The shrilling. I don't think that.
Or 10 minutes.
Yeah, I don't think we could. He could get a word in edgewise with those women, but it would be
interesting though that the most sour, dour, negative people on television are named Joy, Sunny, and what's the other? Whoopi.
Well, maybe it's like an oxymoron type thing.
Yeah.
So, but with Tucker, everyone's speculating what his next move will be, but I don't know why. So there's some speculation. BlackRock has increased their stock in Fox, which I think is interesting. And, Tucker, I believe his last segment, he was talking about Big Pharma. Who else was talking about Big Pharma and got kicked out of their company? James O'Keefe. It was within a week of him doing all that stuff against Pfizer and doing the breaking story. So it makes you wonder who is really pulling the strings at these networks. And, Big Pharma does contribute a lot to advertising for Fox and CNN and all of these networks. So I think, there's a lot of speculation. Like I said, I don't know that we'll ever know the real truth, but it's also interesting that they don't go after Ingram or Sean Hannity.
I think one of the things also that they were speculating that Tucker always professed his Christian faith, and he did so at a speech last weekend at one of the big
Heritage.
At Heritage, and they said that freaks Rupert Murdoch out, who is the owner of Fox. He didn't like all that spiritual stuff, and so that was part of it. And that's the first I've heard of that. But
that's an interesting speculation.
One of the media experts. So take that with the proverbial grain of salt.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about Tucker is he's going to be fine. The thing that's unfortunate is that his programming on Fox also allowed an alternate view that people are not talking about other than him on a major network. So are there going to be a group of people that maybe don't get the stories because he's not on there? Probably. But also, do I think that Sean Hannity's ratings are going to suffer? Absolutely. That lead-in was super important for him. Oh,
absolutely.
And so it's interesting that Fox did this. I mean, they made so much money off of his show. So I mean...
Yeah, it was a cash cow.
Well, and they think that... I know you like Kilmeade, but I just don't think he can live up to Tucker. I don't think that they can replace Tucker.
No. Brian Kilmeade can't do that. I mean, Brian Kilmeade is very good, but he's not the guy. I would like to see Joe Concha get one of those slots because Dan Bongino left on his own volition. He said that he's leaving his radio show as well. I think he's got about a month or so left because they couldn't come to terms on his new contract.
Well, the radio, I think it had something to do with the vaccine issue because they still required the vaccine, and he was trying to protect some of his employees that worked on his show.
Yeah.
And so there was a big battle, during 2020 and 2021
And he
about
also said
that.
he wanted to do it for family reasons as well. And I couldn't understand really his meteoric rise. Because I like his perspective because he's been a police officer and a Secret Service agent, and he gave up his Secret Service agent stuff when the Dalai Lama was president because he said, I don't want to put my life on the line for this communist idiot. So he left the Secret Service before he got qualified for pension or anything of that nature. So good on him for that. And so he has this great perspective of insider information from what goes on at the White House through the Secret Service, what he did as a New York police officer, and all the behind the scenes things that he had to do there as a young patrolman, and then on up as he climbed up the ranks a little bit. So I like that perspective and have him on as a contributor, but having him on for a full show, and notice he didn't know how to do radio. It seemed very awkward on how he was doing radio. He didn't seem to quite understand the audience and exactly how to project himself on the air. And by the way, radio and television are two entirely different animals. They are not. They may both be broadcasting, but they are not the same thing. And the people who can't make it in radio go to television.
Well, and I think also podcasting is very different, and that's kind of where a lot of his fame came from, was from the podcast that he has, which is a different animal than even radio. Even though it's both audio, it's vastly different.
Oh, exactly.
So I think that there's a lot of dynamic there.
I noticed, when I first went to work at WSAV, before they were on your side, I grew up in the business where you paid attention to audio, and it wasn't just the good video. And about the third week I was there, my news director came over to me. He said, "I noticed that your audio sounds a lot better than the other reporters." And I said, well, the other reporters are lazy, or they've learned because they keep their microphones on what's called ALC, automatic level control. So if I'm in a crowded spot and I've got the automatic level control on, when I've got the microphone talking to you, as soon as you stop talking, it's looking for something. It starts raising the volume because it's looking for something to pick up, and it starts taking out all this background noise.
Yep.
So if you're in a crowded room, you can hardly understand what the person is saying. If you turn that off and just adjust what we call a VU meter, which is a little needle that, or in some cases lights, that will go to a certain level. Once it starts getting in the red, it's distorting. So you want to keep it out of the red. And when you do it, I hate to get real technical on you, but that's the point. I said I don't use automatic level control. I adjust the levels accordingly. He said, "Oh, that's it." And he called all the reporters together and said, "This is how you're supposed to do it."
It makes sense, but
yeah, they pay attention, and I guess what they teach them in journalism school, you got to have these great pictures, but they don't talk about where you got to have some sound with it too.
Well, audio is my pet peeve. If there's bad audio, I'm not listening to it.
And I can't believe, sometimes that Sean Hannity or some of the other radios, they say, now listen to this. Somebody recorded something on their phone or something way in the back of a speech, and you hear, he said, and now listen to this, and you hear,
the Charlie Brown teacher.
Yeah, and said, so what do you think? I said, I didn't understand a damn word they said. It's like that body cam stuff. They said, "We want to warn you that this is dangerous," and all I see is this. And I'm
like the Blair Witch Project.
What was that? I didn't see anything.
Oh, quite interesting, Bill. Well, I don't know how you're going to.
They don't ask my advice.
They need you. They need you.
I've offered it, but they haven't. And what's interesting? When I was on television regularly, I used to be called to schools all the time on the
Career Day.
Career Day. When I went to, but the last 20 years in radio, nobody's ever. The phone has been silent as the Sphinx.
Very interesting,
Yeah,
Bill.
interesting.
Very interesting. Well, when we get back, we'll be talking about a big announcement.
Mm-hmm. At Get Real America, We want to make sure that the real story gets out, and you can help us as a sponsor or as an advertiser to make sure that that word does get out to the community.
Be a sponsor and support your local community here at Get Real America.
Hello, I am Bob Williams, current president of the Savannah Scottish Games. This is our 44th Savannah Scottish Games. We've been at Bethesda Academy for the last 15 or so years. Simultaneously, we have the Border Collie demonstrations herding sheep. We have children's activities. We have the Celtic dancers, the Highland dancers. We have the athletic field right in front of us here. And behind me, we have the Celtic music entertainment tent. So we have over 50 clans represented here at today's games. This is the time for Scots to get together, share their cultural heritage. We have a genealogy tent so they can find out the history of their family name and how it connects to Scotland, along with a lot of the Scottish history. We have reenactors on site that demonstrate some of the activities that were taking place during the 18th and 19th centuries. As this country was getting settled, and this role that Scots played during that.
I don't think it's an accident that I ended up writing music for a living, because I think I lived in a house where I saw how deeply it affected everyone in the house. And just how much everyone defined themselves by the music they listened to.
Music as a framework, I think, gave my parents my identity from a young age. You can like any music that you want if it makes you feel happy. And now when I hear certain songs, I think of them, and I think of them in their happiest state, and it makes me happy.
If they seem like they're having trouble talking about something, I try to tell them about a time when I felt something similar.
Whatever the issue was, we would tell them the pros and cons and how important it was, and that they had come to us because we could always help them. I think the real important point, we always told them, no matter what you do, no matter what happens, we will help you through it no matter what it is.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
The country has been saved.
Oh, it has? From what?
From all the MAGA Republicans.
Oh.
Yeah.
What were they doing to?
They were trying to reinstitute common sense, but we have such good news that we're almost beside ourselves with joy, because it's become official. He's running for re-election.
Oh, I was holding my breath.
Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Yes. Running for re-election, if he knows what that is.
I don't think he even knows where he is most of the time.
He doesn't. No.
He's yesterday, did you see what he said? That the children belong to everyone.
Yeah, children belong to everyone.
They're not your children, they're America's children.
Yeah, well, say that about his grandkid that he won't acknowledge.
Wasn't Hunter Biden hiding in the White House so that he can't be served paperwork on that child?
Yeah, something along that, yeah. Uh-huh.
Very interesting. but I will tell you, they did a great job with his campaign ad announcement. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have. This is great stuff. Get ready, buckle your seatbelt, because this is gonna make your day.
Freedom. Personal freedom is fundamental to who we are as Americans.
There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred.
That's been the work of my first term, to fight for our democracy.
This shouldn't be a red or blue issue.
To protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone is given a fair shot at making it. But around the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those bedrock freedoms, cutting Social Security that you've paid for your entire life while cutting taxes for the very wealthy, dictating what health care decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love, all while making it more difficult for you to be able to vote. When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we're in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are. The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. This is not a time to be complacent. That's why I'm running for re-election. Because I know America. I know we're good and decent people. I know we're still a country that believes in honesty and respect and treating each other with dignity. That we're a nation where we give hate no safe harbor. We believe that everyone is equal, that everyone should be given a fair shot to succeed in this country.
Thank you for choosing us.
Every generation of Americans has faced a moment when they have to defend democracy. Stand up for our personal freedom. Stand up for the right to vote and our civil rights. And this is our moment. So if you're with me, go to joebiden.com and sign up. Let's finish this job. I know we can, because this is the United States of America. There's nothing, simply nothing we cannot do if we do it together.
The other surprising thing is that he also is going to be running with Harris, which I thought was interesting as well, since I've heard that there's been some conflict between the two of them.
Yeah, but also the best insurance policy he could ever have. In fact, I'd get a food taster if I were him.
Yeah, I definitely would not trust her.
I hope that didn't cause you to lose your breakfast, because everything in there he said was a lie. Everything.
Well, I mean, let's see. He said, do we want more freedoms? Do we want less freedoms? I know what I want the answer to be. Mm-hmm. That was, he didn't really answer the question, but we all know that we are definitely not freer than we were, 2 years ago.
Exactly. And look how much damage they've done. And, I was discussing this with a friend yesterday. I said, how can anybody that's got an IQ higher than single digits see how good off we were under Donald Trump and how bad things are under this president? Why would you cut off our own oil supplies? Why are we are standing on the most abundant energy supply in the world, and in fact our crude oil, so I'm told by the experts, is much cleaner than the crude that we are purchasing from our enemies. So why would you cut off ours, which would give us energy independence like we had under Donald Trump, would create thousands and thousands of good-paying, sustainable jobs, and try to live in this utopian world with that think that windmills and solar panels are going to give us the energy that we need. My daughter-in-law's father is visiting us here from California, and he came here for a week. He's been here for over a month now. He likes it here. You know why? Because the electricity's on all the time. He's not suffering brownouts like he has or blackouts like they have in California, these rolling blackouts that they have because they've closed all their nuclear power plants. And by the way, I thought the Germans were supposed to be so damn smart. They've just closed their last nuclear power plant, and they're having energy problems. And they think windmill. And when I was over in Germany about 5 years ago, I saw all these windmills all over the place. And I said, God, they're as stupid as we are. And half of them weren't even turning. So I don't know what the hell they think that this is going to. And by the way, every one of those solar panels, every one of those windmills, most of the ingredients to make them are petroleum products. Duh. This is just ridiculous. And I don't know what they're going to. We're the only state in the last 40 years, Brittany, that has built nuclear power plants, and we still have one that's still probably a few months away from going online. The first one, and then but I don't know if they're going to let us complete them. I don't know if the feds are going to come along and say, you got to quit building that after we've spent billions on it, and it's billions in overruns. But it's worth it because the power will stay on in Georgia.
Well, I hope that our elected officials here, including Brian Kemp, will fight for that because I do know that there was a Supreme Court case last year out of West Virginia that had to do with the restrictions that the EPA was putting on states. And West Virginia won that case, so we'll see what the impact is of that. But I would hope that they would fight back. And guess what? Like, the federal government should have no say in what a state is doing.
No, it's a 10th Amendment thing.
Yeah, I don't understand why we've allowed the federal government to scare all of these governors into doing what they want them to do. And it all comes down to money because they take away the federal funding.
They threaten them with the federal funds.
And you know what they should say? Then people from our state are not going to pay into the federal fund.
Yeah.
If you're not going to give us federal money, then we're not going to take it.
We're not going to send it to you.
Yep, and we're not going to pay it. Well, I'm not going to require my people to pay it. So
this is one of my friends said one time. He said, sending money to the federal government's kind of like feeding hay to a horse. It goes in one end hay and comes out the other end something else.
That's exactly how it goes, Bill. And I don't know. I think that people are getting sick of the fair tax is actually getting more.
Popular?
Yeah, I mean, and it's getting more exposure. People are talking about it. I think it's been brought up multiple times. I know that Buddy Carter is really focused on that right now. I don't know exactly how I feel about the fair tax. I think that there are maybe some other better ways to do this, just because I don't think putting a 27% tax on everything, that still makes things very expensive, especially when you're looking at inflation right now. But although you are keeping more of your income, it still means that if you want to purchase anything, you're definitely paying more.
No, but you see, that's the fallacy that the left had been trying to sell you. In fact, one of the reasons that one of our congressmen got defeated about 20 years ago was because he was pushing the fair tax, and the opposition and the Democrats were saying he wants to. Hey, I thought Republicans were against higher taxes. This guy wants to add 27% tax on you. No. Wouldn't want to add more taxes. Wanted to take away taxes. In other words, you would get your entire paycheck. You would not have to pay any federal tax. You would get the entire amount. Maybe states will worry about that later. Pardon me. But once those federal taxes start going away, things start becoming cheaper because the tax isn't on it anymore. If you buy a Snickers bar, for example, there's something like 7 taxes on this thing.
So it would take away all taxes from that.
So you take away you start taking away all these hidden, what they call the hidden taxes. As Paul Harvey used to point this out all the time, said, you're not overpriced, you're overtaxed. There's the federal excise tax, and there's a transportation tax because they gotta have that. They gotta the truck that brought it to you has a.
But will those taxes go away?
Yes.
For the fair tax.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of those taxes start going down, and so you get your entire paycheck. And this is what we said when we don't have tax reform. If you got your entire check, and you had to sit down every week or month and pay the federal tax, so write a check to the feds, write a check to the state, write a check to the county, write a check to the city, and find out how much, because people don't know how much they're paying because it's already taken out.
Yeah, they just get what's in the bank.
Yeah, you get your check. It's like when these people get these, I've talked to some people said, how much tax did you pay last year? Oh, I didn't pay anything. I got a refund.
That's not true.
I said, no, I didn't ask you. How much tax did you pay? I said, I don't know, but I got a refund. Mm-hmm.
That's what has made them so successful in being able to continue to raise taxes.
Yeah.
Is that people have no idea.
You don't see it. It's another dollar. Okay, it's another dollar. It's just a dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not how it works, but.
And we'll use that to pay down the national debt. Uh-huh.
Well, hopefully.
How's that working for you?
It hasn't been working at all.
Mm-hmm. No, it hasn't.
At all. All right. When we get back, we'll continue our PragerU series on our presidents.
Meet another president coming up.
Who is a kid? Well, that's a kid. And another. Look, a gaggle of them. Or is it a herd? Litter? Pride. But what about her? Tell her she's not a kid. Or him. So how do we tell who is a kid? Height? Age, maybe. But some of us have to grow up faster than others. A kid. A kid. A kid wants to make the world better. And one day, he just might. Is a kid fearless? Vulnerable? Strong? Nervous? Yes. 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 Kiwanis is 600,000 kids at heart doing all the little and big things it takes to help children around the world. Because kids need Kiwanis. All of them.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934 with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Come join us today at Sweet Potatoes Kitchen for some of that good Southern home cooking, like fried chicken, fish, and mouth-watering banana pudding. Say it's the best in the world, and you won't get an argument from me. Also, those vegetables are fresh and delicious. Voted Southside's best restaurant in Savannah at least 5 times, and large corporate parties are welcome. Tell them Bill Edwards sent you. Drop by and eat today. Everybody loves sweet potatoes.
Hello, I am Bob Williams, current president of the Savannah Scottish Games. This is our 44th Savannah Scottish Games. We've been at Bethesda Academy for the last 15 or so years. Simultaneously, we have the Border Collie demonstrations herding sheep. We have children's activities. We have the Celtic dancers, the Highland dancers. We have the athletic field right in front of us here. And behind me, we have the Celtic music entertainment tent. So we have over 50 clans represented here at today's games. This is the time for Scots to get together, share their cultural heritage. We have a genealogy tent so they can find out the history of their family name and how it connects to Scotland, along with a lot of the Scottish history. We have reenactors on site that demonstrate some of the activities that were taking place during the 18th and 19th centuries as this country was getting settled, and this role that Scots played during that.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
Well, getting real with our presidents.
Yes, and I've learned a lot myself because some of the presidents, they don't really talk
I
about
have
in
too.
school.
Yeah. Once again, this ought to be required viewing for all of our kids starting in the first grade.
Yes, and Herbert Hoover is our next president.
Mm-hmm.
Herbert Hoover, the 31st President of the United States, succeeded at almost everything he did. And not just succeeded, he succeeded in spectacular fashion. As a mining executive in Australia and China, as a humanitarian in Europe, and as a politician in the United States. But he's best known to history for his role in one failure, the Great Depression, a decade-long economic collapse that impoverished millions in America and across the world. He didn't cause it, and he made superhuman efforts to reverse it, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stop it. If a single individual could have, it might have been this remarkable man. Born in rural Iowa in 1874, Hoover was orphaned at the age of 9. His father, a blacksmith, died when Hoover was just 6. His mother, a Quaker preacher, 3 years later. Unhappy, sullen, and painfully shy as a teenager, he came into his own at Stanford University, then tuition-free. Hoover was in his university's very first graduating class, his field of study being geology. On graduation, he talked himself into a job with a prominent English mining company. They sent him to the Australian outback. Conditions were so harsh and diseases so rampant it was almost a suicide mission. But young Hoover was not deterred. He reorganized the company's mines, made them much more profitable, and scouted for new ones. A gold mine he acquired, largely on his own initiative, turned out to be one of the richest in the world. He was on track to become fabulously wealthy when World War I broke out, and he abruptly abandoned his business career. In a matter of months, he transformed himself into an internationally recognized humanitarian. Almost single-handedly, he arranged to feed 8 million Belgians threatened with starvation when the war cut off their food supplies. In 1919, with the guns finally silenced, Hoover was charged by President Woodrow Wilson to lead the rebuild of Europe's devastated economy. He tackled the job with his usual ferocious energy and saved tens of millions more from starvation. The New York Times described him as the nearest approach to a dictator Europe has had since Napoleon. They meant it as a compliment. In 1921, the newly elected Republican president, Warren Harding, tapped Hoover to be Secretary of Commerce. He stayed on when Calvin Coolidge took over, following Harding's sudden death in 1923. During his tenure, Hoover laid the groundwork for America's commercial aviation industry. He also organized the building of the Colorado River Dam that now bears his name and made possible the rapid expansion of the American Southwest. And when disastrous flooding struck the Mississippi River Valley in 1927, it was Hoover who managed the massive and successful relief effort. By the time he won the Republican presidential nomination in 1928, he was hailed as a man whose wisdom encompassed all branches, whose judgment was never at fault, who knew the answers to all questions, and who could see in the dark. His election was never in doubt. He won easily. Yet just 6 months after Hoover's inauguration in the autumn of 1929, the stock market crashed. Slowly and inexorably, the United States followed the rest of the world into the Great Depression. However qualified he was for the presidency, Hoover was no match for the worst economic collapse in modern history, an international phenomenon rooted in the still unresolved upheavals of the First World War, far beyond the capacities of any one leader to solve. His political opponents would later claim that he sat on his hands through his 4 years in office. Hoover, in fact, fought the Depression with vigor and imagination. He expanded the federal government's toolkit for managing the economy and made far more progress in limiting the Depression's damage than is generally recognized. But the Depression exposed Hoover's weaknesses as a political leader. Always a workhorse, often brusque and even surly, he had succeeded in politics not because of his personality, but in spite of it. He made himself an easy target for Franklin Roosevelt, his Democratic challenger in 1932. A master of the political arts, Roosevelt effectively accused Hoover of not caring about the plight of millions of unemployed Americans. Hoover lacked the skills to counter Roosevelt's nonstop attacks. The charges stuck. But it was his stance on prohibition that really did Hoover in. Roosevelt strongly favored repeal. Hoover thought it should remain the law of the land. Roosevelt won in a landslide. An inveterate cigar smoker, the man from Stanford lived on for 30 more years, writing books, managing charities, and overseeing the conservative think tank that he founded and that still operates today. Despite all he accomplished, Herbert Hoover is best remembered for his one great failure. We would do his memory in American history a service if we also remembered him for his astonishing successes. I'm Kenneth White, author of Hoover, An Extraordinary Life in Extraordinary Times, for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
Boy, that's true, that you are known for this one failure.
Yeah,
I
remember, so interesting.
Yeah, that great line in the movie Sully about the pilot that landed, the Miracle on the Hudson, yep, where he landed the airplane. The fact that he had been a fighter pilot, the fact that he was also a glider pilot, kind of helped. But I remember in the movie where Tom Hanks played him, he's talking to his co-pilot when they're going through all this, when the FAA is doing all the big investigation as to why they, had to ditch the plane instead of landing at one of the airports, coming back to land after a bird strike. He said, I have, I've been, pilot for like 30 years. He said, I have delivered millions of passengers. I've flown millions of miles. I've delivered hundreds of thousands of passengers safely to their destination. And he said, and my entire career is going to be judged on 90 seconds.
Yep.
He had 90 seconds to come up with that decision. He called. He can't go to He can't go back to JFK. He can't go to LaGuardia. He couldn't go to Teterboro. He said, and his experience told him that those engines were dead. There was nothing they could do. They could not be restarted. And when of course, he was, completely exonerated, because when they finally got all the wreckage out and they pulled those engines out, and all the experts looked at him and said, they weren't going anywhere. So he could have, everybody could have lost their lives on that, crashing into some neighborhood or something, or some buildings, and killing people on the ground as well as in the plane. And it's just amazing that had he not been exonerated from that, he would be remembered for those 90 seconds. And when you had the simulators that people said that they flew, and they could have done this, that, or the other, and finally his attorney said, "And how many times did you fly that simulator to get to the result you wanted?" 13.
Oh my goodness.
And he said, "Okay," and that took a couple of hours. He said, "I had 90 seconds to make this decision."
Yeah, I mean, we see that, I think, throughout even what we're going through now. Mm-hmm. Like, what is Donald Trump remembered for? January 6th. Yeah. I mean, that is the one of the things that they
the false narrative.
Yeah.
And Tucker Carlson, God bless him, put that video destroy that the entire January 6th myth was destroyed by that one 2-minute video that he put on the air that just got the Democretans shorts in a wad, because here's the shaman, whatever the guy, the shaman, the guy walking around with the Viking hat, walking around holding an American flag, walking through, being escorted by Capitol Police, going into the the Senate and saying thank God for America, and all the people walking around saying let's respect the building, let's respect these people. And none of the statues in there were spray painted or knocked down or anything of that nature. People were walking around very peacefully, taking pictures, taking selfies, and yet this is the thanks that they get. And some of them are still in solitary confinement and haven't been able to see their families or anything else. And that's one of the things that if the Republicans had a backbone, and I don't believe that they do, except maybe with very few exceptions, and you can probably count them on one hand, getting these people out.
Yep. 2024 is going to be an interesting year. We'll see if
sure is.
We'll see if the American people also have the wherewithal to do what they need to do and elect
Let's
better
hope we can
people.
make it through 2023, for God's sake.
It's looking a little rough, I'm not going to lie, but where there's life, there's hope.
Yeah, and I believe in America, and we will. The silent majority will start screaming loudly again.
Yes, so make sure your voice is heard, and we will be back tomorrow with more.
You tell them about ours. Stay real.